MrBoo.
Hey everybody, it is I, MrBoo Entertainment Guru. MrBoo Entertainment Guru right here on YouTube. Slap the thing up, like, subscribe, ring a bell or two. Do with that what you will. It is October 30th. It is Devil's Night. Now, besides and way beyond the tradition of, setting a city ablaze on Devil's Night, there's another tradition that I must talk about, and that is pumpkin carving. A lot of people who haven't already put their jack-o'-lanterns out to mold, wilt, and fall apart. Tonight's usually the night you do it. You get a bunch of pumpkins, you gather around, and then you carve said pumpkins into a jack-o'-lantern, you make pumpkin pie. Now, what does this entail? Well, a lot of stabbing, chopping, cutting, pulling innards out, and shoving a candle either down or up said pumpkin to, turn it into a jack-o'-lantern. Now, what if these pumpkins, per se, what if we took the classic movie trope here and you were in small town USA or small town somewhere, and there was a train hauling a bunch of chemicals, biological chemicals, or what have you. Maybe it's the ooze from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anyway, it's something that could turn a normal man into a monster or a DC or Marvel superhero. And it just so happens to derail and turns your town upside down with chemical warfare. The town has to evacuate. And after all of this, you're finally moving back in, and it's the pumpkin festival. It's Halloween. You're having a blast. You're carving pumpkins, and boom, the pumpkin Mr. Joe over here brought starts coming to life and saying, you know what? I'm a gourd. I have feelings too, and it's time that you get carved. And just starts taking revenge on all the pumpkin carvers and anyone and everyone that gets in its way. Yep, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Hulu's Huluween original this year, based on a YouTube short by the same name. Link in the description down below for that YouTube short, Carved. This movie is getting a review right here, right now on Devil's Night. And let me tell you, this movie, it's a campy, cheesy comedy horror movie. It is definitely splatstick instead of slapstick. It is definitely right along those 80s films that we've grown to love over the years. And it's right alongside all those cheap, low-budget films that we kind of return to the video store and say, you know what, I need a refund because this was bad. Okay, so let's just get into this. Like I said, we're going to get to the plot of the story, which is a classic, overused, overdone movie trope in horror and comic book and monster movies all around. And that is just the pure fact that a train hauling chemicals derails. Almost like they took this from the actual thing that happened in Ohio where the chemical thing derailed. Anyway, it oozes into this small town as the train goes by, derails, and it's all over. The town evacuates. The town is on its last limb, and here it is Halloween once again. They're trying to put things back together. They got reporters trying to be like, come, look at our Halloween thing. Look at our pumpkin fest. We're a good small town, USA. Come, repopulate the area. It's fine. Nothing went wrong. There's no radiation. There's no chemicals. There is a killer pumpkin now. There is a killer pumpkin. There is a Teenage Mutant Ninja gourd on the loose on a murder rampage spree, trying to save its brethren from us celebrating Halloween by destroying them with sharp, pointy objects, scooping them from the inside out, and lighting a candle in there to light their husk ablaze to celebrate All Hallows Eve. I can't make this up. This is the story. Small town USA, derailment, chemicals, towns trying to be put back together again, and lo and behold, with a reporter on the scene, here comes a killer pumpkin. Yeah. So the pumpkin patch obviously got the most and worst part of the chemical spill, and no one knew this until I think it was like a year later when someone picked the ugly, bumpy, creepy, alive, unknowingly, not knowing it was alive, picks the pumpkin to carve. while the carving is taking place, that's when the whole thing takes place. There are no spoilers here, really. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is, I'm watching my brethren get carved up. They are unaliving my gored brethren. They are unaliving my family. They're scooping them from the inside out. They're carving funny and scary faces in them. And oh my God, the horror. Now I must come alive and do something. Okay, so the plot, it's very shallow, but it is based on a YouTube short, and I actually like the YouTube short. Again, link in the description down below. So the plot and the cheesy, chemicals created the monster thing aside, it's not that bad of a movie, but it's not that good of a movie either. It is a fun watch, and this is why. The plot definitely brings it down a bit, but it has pretty cool practical effects when they do use practical effects. And that's something for me that I've loved, especially in the era right now of everything being CG, everything. Even when you have a movie that's on a budget of $100 dang, you got someone on an iPhone somewhere doing your special effects. I mean, practical is better, and that's the thing. Practical is better, and in this case, practical is redder and wetter. Because the plasma, the red stuff, the things running through our veins that the pumpkin takes out when it goes insane is actually practical. It is a red substance. It is thickened. It is made to look like what beats through our veins from our heart. When a pumpkin takes that heart away and unalives you, well, there's going to be red and it's going to spray and it's going to be beautiful and glorious, not digitalized. Like most movies nowadays where it's like, oh, we're just going to splatter some digital effects here and splatter some digital effects there and no one will notice. Okay, first off, it doesn't look wet. First off, it doesn't look like it's there. And second off, it just doesn't move or flow right. Like it just does not fit. So please, if you are a filmmaker using digitalized blood, digitalized red stuff, digitalized anything that comes out of the human body in your horror or action film, please just remember that every October, probably a block or two down the road from where you are, there is a Spirit Halloween, and by all means, go buy them out of their fake plasma. Also, maybe use, ketchup or thickened substances like Karo syrup with food coloring. Go back to the olden days and realize that practical is better. Now, on that note, practical is usually, always better. Well, like I said, they have some pretty cool practical effects. The pumpkin has some pretty cool puppet and animatronic scenes. But they look really good, and they do camera tricks to stick up with it. So the effects are okay. But again, they didn't shy away from digitalizing a lot of it. So when you're like, oh, cool, that's a cool animatronic. Like, there's puppeteers. That is actually something moving, or that is stop motion. Then you get a split second of CGI that your 10-year-old granddaughter did on her Walmart laptop you bought on clearance last Black Friday. And it just takes you out of the immersion of the film. It just takes you out of, everything. You're like, that pumpkin looks like a cartoon all of a sudden. Same thing with some of the unaliving scenes. The pumpkin goes at some people, and, well, people kind of tend to lose their heads. And sometimes that doesn't really look great because you could tell it's like, oh, they totally digitalized that whole effect. And so I'm going to give them credit. Like I said, the crappy plot of the movie aside, and the fact that it's really nothing more than a mutated pumpkin getting revenge for pumpkin carving and mutilating its fellowship of the pumpkin ring. I don't even know. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Gord gets its revenge on us who are Shredder and the Foot Clan every time we're carving into them. That aside, wonderful that they did not digitally use any plasma. I think there was one scene where stuff was getting hit on the wall. That looked digital. And I do give them credit for trying to keep and do animatronic stuff, and that's cool, but you failed when you put shoddy, 1995 CGI, and I'm not talking about like Jurassic Park and Titanic and things that really took it to the next level. I'm talking like Birdemic. Comment down below if you know what Birdemic is. And hallelujah and praise the Lord that you probably never have to sit through that again because wow, Birdemic. But anyway, bad plot. Really nice that they didn't digitalize any red stuff. But then, as cool as it is to see those animatronics, they go and they digitalize it to where it takes you out of that immersion. So the special effects in this movie, they are definitely hit and miss. The plot, simple, to the point, kind of a miss. It really, being a horror movie though, it does land on one good thing. The cheesy acting, the great campiness, that's there. It hits on being what it wants to be, which is kind of a parody of itself. This is a Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. This is a Critters. This is one of those type of movies, if you will. The one other thing, I guess you would say it would hit on two things. Not just the campiness and the acting and everything, just feeling right at home with a comedy horror, but also the kill count or the death count or the people who are unalived is at a high number of people. And that alone is pretty good as well. Like that alone can save the day. But this movie cannot be saved itself. I think the short little tiny film on YouTube by the same name, Carved, is better. I gotta say, the plot, like I said, there's nothing to it. It's not juicy. It doesn't last and keep your interest really once everything starts. It's just very shallow, very thrown together, and very horror movie trope. Like, hey, the ooze made me do it. Or, hey, the radiation or chemicals brought this pumpkin to life and now it's pissed. And like I said, the great animatronics from time to time, but they are ruined by bad CGI. Thankfully, no CGI blood. The acting is terrible, but hey, it makes you laugh. It makes you feel like you're back in the 80s watching a B film on the big screen. But even with the kill count and again with a cheesy ending that's like, ooh, there's gonna be a part 2. This movie is nothing like last year's Huluween. I loved every movie they put out last October, last Halloween for Huluween. And this year, this movie, in my books, I'm giving it like a 2.5 out of 5. Because at least they took someone's short creation on YouTube and said, there's some potential there. And they made it something. And they got it out there and they got it mainstream. And they did use some animatronics and some real plasma. And a good kill count. But everything else falls apart. I mean, shoddy story, shoddy plot. Bad acting. Hey, I guess it does its job though. It is like watching The Blob or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or Critters. Only those movies are far more interesting and far more convoluted in what's going on. And there's just so much more story and potential there than a pumpkin who goes after carvers for revenge because said pumpkin sucked up some ooze or some chemical spill somewhere. And did I forget to mention another thing that makes it kind of like Critters and Gremlins and possibly Alien is the fact that this thing is, spoiler alert here, but I wouldn't waste your time watching it anyway. It's reproducing. It's doing what plants do, and there's a ton of little teeny tiny attacking pumpkins. It's 2.5 out of 5. If you want to watch it, it is a pretty good watch. I wouldn't say it's for everyone. It does have mature ratings, mature themes. It does show people get whacked by a pumpkin, and some of it can be brutal, even though it doesn't quite look real. So be aware on that aspect when you're watching with young children or preteens or anything like that, or anyone who's sensitive to any of that. But I mean, if you're gonna watch something campy, you might as well put on Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness or Critters or Gremlins. or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, or just go to YouTube, link in that description down below, and look at this short film. It does a way better job, and it doesn't take an hour and a half away from your life. So that was my review on Carved, and I'm not really scared enough not to carve a pumpkin, so I think the next chance I get, whether it be today, tomorrow, next Halloween, I think I'm still going to carve me up some pumpkins, and we'll just see what happens. But until then, I'm MrBoo, Entertainment Guru. You can catch Carved over on Hulu if you wish to do so. It's an average movie, but it is Halloween, so it could be something fun to watch, I guess. And like I was getting ready to say before that, I'm MrBoo, Entertainment Guru, and until I see you again, I'm out. Happy carving, everybody, and happy Halloween.